What's going on? I'm Scott from Koenig, and on this week's episode, that's right, we do this every week, we're going to be talking to you about some of the most common wheel installation errors that are made and how you can avoid them. Let's get into it. So when we start talking about wheel installation, it's actually a pretty straightforward process. However, there are some things that you can do or flub along the way that can cause you some problems thereafter. And a lot of times that leaves you pointing your finger at a tire, the wheel, or anything like that, and you really are chasing your tail. So we're gonna try to help you avoid those things. And yes, they're primitive, and yes, they're simple, but that's the whole point of this thing, to make sure that you have the information you need to avoid them and not have to deal with them. So one of the most common errors that happens during an installation is the fact that you don't use a hub-centric ring. A hub-centric ring isn't a safety item, it's not a structural item. That little 10mm hub that sticks out, that little lip there, it's not bearing the weight of the wheel. It's literally there to center and make sure the wheel is perfectly centric to the hub before you tighten the wheel down. When you have an OE wheel, when you have a hub-centric wheel that's drilled to the exact same size as the hub of your vehicle, then that lip is there again as a centering piece, and then you tighten them down and it doesn't do anything. So a hub-centric ring essentially does that. It's going to act as a dowel pin. It's just there for you to put into the back of the wheel and then put the wheel onto the car, so it makes sure that it's perfectly hub-centric. Now, why do you need a hub-centric ring? Because any absence of hub-centric ring or any issue where the wheel's not perfectly centric to the hub could cause vibration. Now, is that something that really is dangerous? Well, I guess to some degree, if you get far enough off, you could be. But for the most part, no, it's not dangerous in a wheel installation. If you don't have hub-centric rings in the back of your wheel, you're having vibration, put one in. So the next point you're gonna be probably thinking in your head is, what hub-centric ring should I choose for my wheels? Well, hub-centric rings are really very universal, but there are some things that make hub rings more quality than the next hub ring. And we've kind of gone the distance because we've gotten the question just so much, and we've made our own hub-centric rings. We make aluminum for the race guys, we make plastic for the street guys. Here's the thing, you can use whatever you want. There's instructions on the back of these boxes here if you get the aluminum ones, and on top of that, we've made videos countlessly to tell you how to put them in. Super easy, but they're available, store.koenigwheels.com. So piggybacking off that whole vibration thought, there is something that can sometimes happen during the installation of your wheels that has to do with the balancing of your wheel. And that actually is kind of centric just to Koenig product. And I'll tell you that what it is has to do with the Flowform caps. So if you look at a Flowform wheel, if you were to take the cap off, there's actually a cap perch. That's where the cap actually screws into. Well, sometimes an installer will put a wheel on the balancer and not use the right size cone. Now, what is the cone? So essentially how a balancer works is you're going to take the wheel and essentially put it onto the hub of the balancer, and they're gonna spin the wheel at speed. When you spin the wheel at speed, essentially what you're looking for is high and low spots within the weight of the wheel. And when I say wheel, I don't mean the wheel itself, it's actually the wheel entire assembly. So what ends up happening is the cone is not perfectly through the cap perch, it actually bottoms out on the cap perch, and sometimes your installer will actually balance a wheel incorrectly because it's not centric to the hub when it's spinning on the balancer. Now, this sometimes is seen, people will send us videos and say that the wheel looks like it's wobbling. That's usually the first time that you'll see indications that they're not using the right cone. Wheels nowadays, they don't really come out of round from factories. It's not like it was 40 years ago. So don't let that be your first thought. Unless it has shipping damage on the box, look at the cone, especially if you're at that stage. So there's a theme to today's installation issue. It seems that most of the time they cause vibration. Here's another point that can cause vibration, or worse, death.
Snake, are you okay? Snake? Snake!
So let's talk about that. When it comes down to using the correct lug hardware, lug bolts, lug nuts, they have to be correct for the wheel. Now, 99% of aftermarket wheels are going to utilize a conical seat lug nut, meaning that it's a 45-degree or 60-degree taper seat, and the lug nut looks like this, the base of the lug nut where it sits into the wheel. Your OE wheels most likely will come with what's called a ball seat lug nut. Kind of like this shaped, you know, rounded. ball shape. Anyhow, if you use the ball seat hardware that came on your car and you tried to put it onto a conical seat wheel, your wheel will eventually wobble or vibrate off the car. So this is what I mean by the whole death thing. Your wheel coming off when you're at speed is kind of a problem. Would you agree? I mean, I feel like it's a problem.
Houston, we have a problem.
Just make sure you have the right stuff. It's just that simple, but it will save you so much headache and, you know, the whole death thing being avoided. So installation's kind of an interesting thing. There are a lot of methods to do the same type of job. For example, putting lug nuts on a car. You could easily use the Ugga Dugga gun. Air impact guns, you can use a battery operated impact gun. I don't care what anybody says, don't do it. Don't use that to install your wheels.
Oh, no!
Now, if you're going to use that, you've seen people use torque sticks. Torque sticks are a good idea. They limit the amount of torque that can be applied through the apparatus that's using to tighten the lug nut. So it's kind of an interrupter there and will keep them from not only damaging the wheels, but kind of putting excess force on the stud or the lug bolt that's actually holding the wheel, you know, like on the car. That's really the premise of it. It's one of those things where studs all have a yield, bolts all have a yield that they can stretch. And if you exceed that, especially over and over again, you'll eventually have a catastrophic failure on that lug nut or on that lug bolt. So don't let that happen. Limit the amount of torque. Use only the torque settings that are provided to you by the OE manufacturer in the book, and make sure you apply the proper amount of torque to the wheel using the tool of choice, torque wrench. It's just that simple. There's really no need to elaborate on it. Just do that. So it seems like we're rounding out with something that I probably should have started with, and that has to do with wheel test fits. We made a whole video about this. It's on our YouTube channel, and I recommend that if you are getting wheels for the first time, or if you're not an avid wheel person, then you check it out. It's super quick, it's super self-explanatory. It's also one of those things that you think would be common knowledge, but I think I take for granted the fact that I hear wheel stories all day long. Look, when you get a set of wheels and tires, even if the installer, retailer, manufacturer say everything is perfect and these are the right wheels for you, take them out of the box, take a wheel off before you go to the installation store or center or wherever you're going, put them on the car. Just move it back and forth. Make sure it doesn't hit any calipers. Make sure it bolts on. Make sure you have the correct installation hardware. Make sure it doesn't hit the strut. Make sure it doesn't stick out of the car. This is a good time to catch any mistake that could exist and make sure that not only did you get the right product, you have the right installation hardware, the wheel's gonna fit, but just to limit the aggravation that you're gonna have. So it's a pretty simple tip. Test fit your wheel. Again, over on our YouTube channel, you can find a whole bunch of information that will actually tell you how to do this, just in case you're not really sure what to look for. So while I'm sure that there's gonna be more installation mistakes that can be made by people,
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
it's funny. It's like, you ever wonder why they put that caution sticker on the ladder, not the stand on the top? It's because somebody stood on the top. So I'm sure there's gonna be more. But what I'm trying to say to you is, we'll keep making these videos and trying to put more information out there in the sphere to help people not have problems and make mistakes. That's pretty much it for this one. Make sure you check out our other videos and we will catch you in the next one. Take care.